Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today, I will be welcoming back my good friend Harrison Smith. Harrison, of course, directed Death House and Garlic and Gunpowder and movies like that. And today, I'm having him on to talk about his brand new podcast, Cynema. And he's also film coaching, teaching people how to make film. And I'm very intrigued by that. I want to find out more about that and stuff. And he has a new movie coming out called The Special. And Harrison is a lot of fun. He's a great guy. And I can't wait to have him on again. And so, yeah, here is my new interview with Harrison Smith. What's up, Harrison?
Hey, Tommy, how are you?
I am superb. How are you doing?
Doing well, thank you. Thanks for allowing me to call in.
Absolutely. Welcome back. How's the weather over there?
Hot but clear.
Oh, yeah, we got it pretty bad over here up until the 90s.
Oh, man.
Yeah, but I wouldn't have it any other way, I'll tell you.
Well, it also beats 2 feet of rain, too.
Oh, yes. We had plenty of rain over here this past winter. I saw Death House recently.
And what'd you think?
Yeah, it's funny. Whenever I hear about the anticipation and the buildup of a movie coming out, I always try to picture the movie in my head, and most of the time I'm usually disappointed, but this movie actually surprised me.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. The build-up in most people's heads is, unfortunately, the Expendables of horror.
Yeah.
And that's, I have found with Death House that people either really ultra love it or they ultra hate it. And most of the time when they ultra hate it, it's because they felt that it was going to be this monster mashup of, different things going on with the characters that, these actors played.
Right.
And, for a year in advance before the movie came out, I kept saying, it's not going to be that, it's not going to be that, but nobody listened. So, when you have people going, oh, I thought it was going to be, Kane Hodder with a, Jason mask on, and it's like, no, no, Tony Todd isn't Candyman. No, it's not going to be that.
Yeah, the Expendables of horror is just bullshit marketing, for the studio.
Oh, yeah, and I was, from the very beginning, when I was sat down and pitched this project to direct it, I kept saying that it's a bad move. It's a bad move to keep saying that. And they're like, no, it makes people remember it. I said, yeah, but they're remembering it for all the wrong things. You're putting all the wrong connotations in their head. So when they finally do see this, some of them are going to be like, oh, okay, well, that was a surprise. And others are going to be like, well, I fucking hate this thing. This isn't what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch it expecting a cameo from Sylvester Stallone.
Right.
But the performances were also wonderful. I mean, you got the best people for the movie.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm real proud of it. I mean, it was a project that gestated a long time, and, Gunnar was so adamant on making sure that fans on the convention circuit enjoyed it, and, I wasn't happy with the theatrical release of it. I think the company that handled it was a bunch of buffoons and really just outright liars.
Yeah.
And I always felt that if they had just handled it properly in the way of sending this out directly to DVD and such, I think it would have even gone wider. But they wasted their time on this theatrical. And although the theatrical helped us, and it did help us get on Netflix, and now it's really reaching a wide audience, I guess, the road led to the same place probably anyway, but I think we could have had less bumps in the road.
Yeah, Netflix is where I saw it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it seems to be doing well. As far as I know, it's going to continue right through August, so it's been on a while.
Yeah. Do you think there'll be more made, and would you like to make more of Death House?
Yeah, well, the sequel's written. It's called The Farm. Mm-hmm. And, I'd love to do the sequel. I think the sequel is far better than the original. It's kind of like it goes in a whole Empire Strikes Back direction and totally where you don't expect it to go at all, and really to the characters of Boone and Novak, and the stories behind them, and those tattoos on them, and everything like that. So I would love to get the going. I know Kane Hodder texts me regularly. When are we doing part 2? When are we doing part 2?
Yeah, I think if you guys make part 2 and have a better company release it, it might end up being, the Wrath of Khan of Death House.
Yeah, you know what? That's a great analogy, man, and I would love to see that happen. I just hope, the powers that be that are putting the money together, get it together. That's what I hope.
Yeah, let's hope that happens, and you get Robert Englund for the second one as well.
Yeah, and Robert was real nice about the first one. He had committed to it years before I even came to the project. They had a letter of intent from him, but things change, and when the money finally moved, that doesn't mean Robert's schedule is going to be open. And he was just coming from Scotland back to California and then leaving for Canada or something like that.
Yeah.
He had a window of like 24 to 48 hours when all of this went in. And he was really, really nice about it. And he was like, look, it doesn't look like it's going to happen. He even offered an invite to shoot it in his backyard in California to shoot his piece. And it's like, we don't want to cheapen it up and just do that. I said, look, let's just catch you on the rebound on the other side. We'll get you for the next one. And he's like, absolutely. So he was very, very kind about the whole thing.
Yeah, he's a great guy, and those guys who do a ton of movies a year and a convention almost every weekend. I mean, those are the hardest ones to get for movies sometimes.
And that's exactly it. That's exactly the situation. He was doing a convention, I think, in Glasgow or something like that, and I had a drink with him at Days of the Dead. He invited me down, and I sat with him for a little bit, and he said, look, I really still feel bad about this. I said, Robert, don't worry about it. It's fine. Look, again, just because the money moved doesn't mean your schedule is open, So It's just the way that it worked. He was contractually obligated, and he had to go fulfill that obligation. So it's like, well, he was just so relieved that we were cool about it, and it's like, well, I don't know why we wouldn't be. It's just the way that it worked, So we'll do another one, and you'll be in that one.
Yeah, I hope he does. I hope so.
Yeah, me too.
So you have this new podcast out called Cynema. What made you want to start a podcast?
Well, a lot of people have been saying it. They listen to my interviews, and they're like, oh, you're so straightforward and all that. Look, I'm not saying I'm always right. I'm just saying that there's a lot of bullshit out there. You know what I mean? Like, and you're watching some of these movies, and you're seeing all this hype on things, and then you go see it, and you go, well, yeah, it was okay. But then the moment you say, well, it was okay, oh, well, you must be jealous. It must be something. No. I'm just saying it was okay, but, some of the hype on this stuff is ridiculous, and then that ruins the movie. If a movie just came out with just normal advertising instead of, oh, it's the scariest ever, it's this, it's that, and just release it properly, I think you'd see a lot more people. I think you'd see a lot less backlash, and that's the problem. When you go see these, there's nothing worse than leaving going, I don't get it. I mean, I see this was okay, but I don't get it. And then the minute that you bring anything up like that, it's like, oh, well, you're a hater, you're jealous, it's sour grapes. No. I'm just pointing out, look, man, for the Babadook, when William Friedkin says it's the most terrifying movie I have ever seen, that's a pretty tall order, dude. I mean, that's coming from the guy that I believe made one of, if not the scariest movie ever made, simply because it's like the godfather of horror movies.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's a tall order coming from him. So, man, when I sit down, I better be ready to keep the lights on after that movie is over. And, I mean, I watched it, and it was fine. It's a well-made film. I enjoyed it. I thought it was imaginative. I thought it was inventive. But it was really more of a psychological thriller, a supernatural psychological thriller than anything else. But it wasn't hardly by a shake of a stick the most terrifying movie ever made.
Yeah.
I guess that's Friedkin's opinion, and that's fine. But, obviously somebody in marketing took that quote and said, well, there's our hook. We're going to run with this one. And, look, like I said, horror is subjective, right? What
Yes.
scares you may not scare someone else. And there are people that find The Exorcist, like Beetlejuice, absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
To them, it's just silly and it's stupid and it's not scary. And I think, where horror is scary is when it taps into what we can relate to personally. Look, I think the most upsetting scenes in The Exorcist are with Damien talking to the demon, and the demon is talking like his mother.
Mm-hmm.
Because anybody who's lost their mother and felt that guilt, of I could have done more, I could have done this, and then it just sits there and it's saying, why you do this to me, Jimmy? It's like, oh my God, that's awful. That's horrifying. To me, it wasn't the head spinning around. It wasn't the the vomit, the pea soup. It wasn't any of that stuff. It was when that little girl is sitting there talking in that dead woman's voice, and I lost my mom. I don't know. And here's the thing: this guy doesn't believe in this anymore, right? Like,
right.
How do you explain that? How do you explain this? And he's so totally lost his faith. It's a very moving scene. I think it's absolutely horrifying for all the right reasons. But, other people can look at it and go, big deal. I think Lake Mungo is scary. Lake Mungo bothered me so much. I emailed the director on Facebook. I messaged him, and I just said, congratulations. In 25 years, I haven't kept the lights on after a horror movie, and I am now going to bed with the lights on.
Mm-hmm.
And other people look at that and go, yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
That cell phone footage that they find in Lake Mungo, that still resonates with me. That is just absolutely disturbing what they find on the cell phone.
Yeah. So you decided that you were going to start a podcast so you could, give your opinion on certain movies and say what.
Well, not even certain movies, and I'm sorry if I went off the rails a little bit. It was Jaws: The Revenge that did it. Jaws: The Revenge. When I saw that, and I'm famous on Twitter for hating Jaws: The Revenge. And the reason why is everybody's like, oh, it's not that bad of a movie. No. See, you don't understand. It's not a fucking movie. Okay? It's not a movie. It was simply a paycheck for a bunch of people to get out of Los Angeles for 3-4 months to the Bahamas. There was no movie here. Okay? This is a complete tax scam, is what it is, to wring a few more bucks out, and everybody gets a payday, and that's really it. There's really no plot to this. No one pitched anything. Don't tell me there was a script session. Don't tell me any of that. They were shipping those special effects out before there was even a script. So, I started this blog, and I started talking about there was no reason why Jaws 4 had to be bad. There was no reason. Okay? It's being made by the people that made the first one, so they obviously know how to do it right. And even the second one, say what you will about Jaws 2, it's well made.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't just clock time. Zanuck and Brown just didn't go, just do it. Right? They didn't. You may not like it. I always say Jaws 2's biggest crime is it isn't Jaws. That's it.
Yeah.
But you can't tell me that it's a badly made motion picture. But with Jaws, and even Jaws 3, on my podcast recently, and even on my blog, I find a lot of problems with Jaws 3, and it's not a good film. I don't believe they set out to make a bad film. But in Jaws: The Revenge, there was no intention to make anything good at all. This was just, they knew people will plunk down money to come see this because it's Jaws on it, and that's it. So that cynical attitude is what I feel is a major problem. And so I started, my podcast is not about movie reviews. It's about the process of making movies and the cynicism that goes with it. Not all the time, but we're seeing now we're just making the same movie over and over again, and we know that people are going to come. So we're just going to remake this movie because we know there's a certain audience out there for this, and they'll bring their kids, and the odds are pretty good we're going to see a return on this. It may not even be a blockbuster, but we're going to get something back on this. So it's an easy, low-hanging fruit to grab off the tree, and that's cynical. And then audiences become cynical because then we expect to hate everything, right? Oh, well, this is going to suck. I'll go see it, but it's going to suck. Why? Did we ever do that growing up as kids? Grown up kids, when The Empire Strikes Back came out, did we go, well, I'll go see it, but it's probably going to suck.
Yeah.
We didn't do that.
Yeah, of course, there was no internet back then.
Right. There was no internet, and that's the other problem, too. The internet, it's like in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, where
right.
I think it was Ben Affleck said that, I think the internet was just created for people to talk shit about movies, just to hate movies.
Yeah.
And the reason why people do that, it's cynical as well, because it is low-hanging fruit, because almost everybody can relate to that. It's almost a common thing. You can say, well, I really hate Star Wars because people go, oh, yeah, I saw that movie. It's common enough. You can't really, you notice there is no real hating for, a specific automobile because most people don't have that automobile, so they can't relate. So they just look at it and go, okay, well, I guess you don't like that. But if you hate on, something big, then what happens is you spread out to a wider audience, and that's a cynical ploy. And so that's why I started the podcast, because so many people listening to me on interviews go, you should really start a podcast on this. And I know to some people it sounds like I'm ranting or I'm angry or whatever. That's not it. Look, I just completed a podcast getting ready to set the stage for Tuffy Williams, who will be coming on. And I talk about, do filmmakers have a right to kind of say something back when a review has got it wrong? Not that they didn't like the movie, but when they've got things factually wrong, should we say something? And to me, the answer is yes, we should. You can hate the movie. That's fine. Liking and hating are subjective. But if you got things totally wrong, for example, this guy wrote a review of Camp Dread years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, oh, the ending to Camp Dread, it was pretty silly. They killed the villain with a watermelon. And I was like, no, they didn't. I don't know what to tell you here. They used a watermelon launcher, but it was pretty damn clear what was in that launcher was not a watermelon.
Yeah.
So I did contact the guy, and I said, look, I'm sorry you didn't really care for the film. He kind of gave it a 5 out of 10,
Yeah.
And so, I wrote him, and I said, listen, but you got it wrong. He goes, oh, what did I get wrong? I said, that's not a watermelon in the launcher. I said, it's a severed head. Oh, I must not have looked at my notes. It's been a couple weeks since I looked at my notes when I wrote the review. I'm like, you took notes on this and you still fucked it up? What the hell kind of a reviewer are you? So you know what? Your review means nothing. Now, on the flip side, Felix Felicis, Blackjaw Punk, wrote a very negative, not even a very negative, it was a negative review of Camp Dread.
Yeah.
And I loved it. It was so well written. She so totally got what we were going for. It didn't tickle her fancy, but my God, what an entertaining and well done review. She knows her movie. So it has nothing to do with thin skin, like, oh, you didn't like my movie, so fuck you. No, it isn't that at all. It's just, don't go printing something where you are wrong. Okay? You're wrong. There is no subjective opinion here. You are wrong. Your facts are wrong. So Cynema came out of all of this where we now have people who think because they have WordPress and a computer, they're reviewers. Or they have a prosumer digital camera and Final Cut Pro and they're filmmakers. No, you're not. That's no different than you, Tommy, saying, well, I like murder investigation shows. I'm going to be a detective. I'm a detective now because I like that.
No way.
or I really like medical shows. I'm going to be a surgeon.
Yeah.
Yep. And because I know how to cut things, I'm going to be a surgeon. It's no different. Would you apply that same standard to the medical field as people do with reviewers? Tuffy Williams is coming on my show to talk about. She made a film. It is a gay film. It is a lesbian film called Girl Themed. It's the feature film version of her series that's streaming on Amazon. And they took the film off Amazon because of negative reviews. First of all, those assholes that post on Amazon, they're not reviews. Those are comments.
Yeah.
Comments are about as worth as much as the spit you can throw on the sidewalk.
I agree.
And there are people out there that just post, I always call them the lone stars. They post one star. They don't care if they even saw it or not. They just want to post the That's what they want to do. Well, there's so many of these people. You know what the reasons were? There's no girl action in it. Nobody gets naked. There's a lot of girls in underwear, but, no one's making out, and it's not even softcore porn. Holy shit, man. That's why Amazon takes this down?
Yeah. My God. Yeah, I know another good metaphor is it's like a guy who goes up to Wrigley Field and says, "Hey, can I pitch today? I never played baseball before, but my arm feels good."
Yeah, it's the same thing, right?
Yeah,
it is. Like, oh well, I used to play baseball in high school, so I'm going to be on the Yankees.
Yeah,
right? I'm a pro baseball player. Give me $15 million a year. I used to pitch in high school.
Yeah,
right? It's the same thing. Oh, I have a computer and I have a blog, so I'm an expert on movies. Everybody listen to me.
Yeah.
Who said that was okay? And so that's cynical. So this podcast emerged from my blog, which has a number of pieces on there again that are not movie reviews. I look at things and I go, like, for example, Halloween 2, 1981 is an extremely cynical film. And yet Halloween 3, which is the most reviled of all the Halloween films, is not. It is not a cynical film. They actually tried to do something different. It was the cynical studio that fucked that movie over.
Yeah.
Tommy Lee Wallace and the gang tried to do something different. They got screwed. But Halloween 2, I mean, everybody loves Halloween 2. Why? Because Donald Pleasance came back. Because it takes place on the same night. Because Jamie Lee Curtis is in it. Well, apparently the Blumhouse boys didn't care for Halloween 2 because they totally ignore it in this new version.
Yeah.
So that tells you something, because all it was a retread. It was the same damn movie. Halloween 2 was the bad version of the first film.
Yeah, it was.
It was. You got hammers in the head, hypodermic needles in the eyeballs, all the shit that Halloween didn't have to stoop to do. Right?
Right.
That's what you got. And everybody gives it a free pass because Jamie Lee is back and Donald Pleasance is in it. Big deal. It's a shitty film. Even John Carpenter says that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What are these movies? These movie fans complain about Trump fans. Well, you people are the same way with your loyalty to some of these shitty horror films. You're the same way. You can't find fault. Even if John Carpenter came out and pissed over every copy of Halloween 2, you'd still find fault with John Carpenter. Like, oh, no, it's still good. I don't know. I like it. I don't care what John Carpenter says.
Yeah.
Right?
Right, yeah. Oh my God, some people. Yeah. So are you going to have people from the industry come on the podcast and talk with you?
Yes and no. I'm not going to do celebrities. I'm not going to do that because I want to hear from the filmmakers that are out there that are working at this. I mean, the filmmakers that are out there, man, that are raising their own money. They've got Kickstarters. They're putting their own money into this stuff. Yeah. And look, even if their film isn't good, they're trying.
Right.
Like, they're trying to get it out there. They're trying. And I want to hear from them. What are you running up against?
Yeah.
There are people that are making their stuff, and some of it's really good, and they're being told by, well, you don't have a name in it, so, nobody's going to see this out. Well, that's cynical. There's got to be a place with all this streaming content these days for somebody's film to get seen and give somebody a break. I've made 7 features now, Tommy, and everybody's calling the special my best movie, and that's great.
Yeah.
But when does somebody look at me? When does Blumhouse look at me? And I know what I sound like. When somebody look at me? But how many dues do you have to pay here? 7 feature films, all with international and domestic distribution, all with good celebrity names, right? And all made well. All of them, there isn't a shittily made one in the bunch. You may not like some of them, but don't go tell me that we made them shitty. We did not. We took $1 out of the dime on some of those films. There's nothing cynical about my films. You may not like them, and I don't like all of my films. That's fine. But, when does somebody look at me and go, what? When does some studio, let's give this guy a break?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Adam Wingard, what was he doing? He did Blair Witch and VHS? And he gets Godzilla versus Kong?
Yeah, that movie he did. He revived Barbara Crampton's career. What was it called? I Know You're Watching. Is that what it's called?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. That's
You know, and he gets Godzilla versus Kong, the most anticipated Godzilla movie in the last 30 years. Everybody's been waiting for Godzilla versus King Kong to be remade, and Adam Wingard gets it. Now, I'm hoping he does great with it. I'm hoping he did a really good job. But I don't know. I mean, I'm just looking at it as Gareth Williams makes, a rinky-dink movie called Monsters, and he gets Godzilla. Now, again, he had a lot of special effects people lobbying for him. And look, I'm a fan of the 2014 Godzilla. I think Gareth Williams did a wonderful job with that, especially in the wake of that stinking cinema piece, 1998's Godzilla.
Yeah. Oh, God, that was terrible. Yeah.
It was terrible. Right?
Yeah.
You say what you will about Gareth Edwards' movie, it isn't cynical.
Yeah, I felt like I was watching a Jurassic Park movie.
Exactly. You were watching The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms meets Jurassic Park with a little alien thrown in at the end.
Oh, I'd rather watch the old Godzilla movies than watch that one any day.
Exactly. So, that's why I did this podcast, and I'll be bringing on people that are out there slugging it, man, that they're putting up their own money, they're trying to get their movie seen, they're trying to get their movie bought. I want to hear from them,
Yeah.
I want to hear from those people that are out there like me. They're working their asses off, and they're trying real hard, and, they keep coming up against brick walls, because, you don't, and then, here's the ironic thing. Oh, well, you don't have a major star in it. Okay, then you go and get a major star, and then they come back and say, well, that star really isn't worth much. It's like, what is this?
Oh, my God. Yeah, have you know about that movie? They just started filming Deborah Voorhees' movie 13 Fanboy.
I know of it, yes.
Yeah, I'm getting really excited about that because, the Jason franchise, that was my franchise when I was a kid. I love that. I'm really anticipating that movie. And I auditioned for it. I didn't get it, but my name will be mentioned in the credits because I contributed to the GoFundMe. So,
sure.
Yeah, that's going to be great.
That's what I'm saying. People are out there working their butts off. And to do a podcast, look, people don't want to sit there and listen to the celebrities. I mean, that might be great, but I don't want to do that. I want to give a platform to people that are working their asses off or coming up against problems like Tucky Williams. That's why I chose her as my first guest. She's a female filmmaker, and she's being absolutely kicked to the curb. They're kicking her to the curb. What? Because what's the crime of her film? There's not enough naked porn action between the girls.
Right. And,
How does that happen in the day and age of Me Too?
Yeah, I don't know. But
I read the comments. She saved all the comments before they took the film down, and you can't see it anymore. And I'm reading it going, I can't believe this. And one guy even wrote, I only watched 10 minutes of it, but I'm giving it 1 star. And that's the cynical thing right there, Tommy, because it comes down to, so you didn't watch the film, you're just giving it 1 star. So how does this constitute a quote-unquote review? It's not a review. It's somebody's comment. No different than if you're walking down the street and somebody sees you, Tommy, and goes, hey, you're a fucking asshole. What? You don't know me. Yeah, but I think you're an asshole.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, being called an asshole is pretty much the equivalent of a 1-star review, don't you think?
Yes, I do.
So, somebody walks up to Tommy and just says, oh, I listened to 30 seconds of your podcast. You suck.
Oh, I've gotten that before.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
You suck. Oh, you didn't listen to it all. No, I turned it off after 30 seconds. So how the fuck do you know if it's any good?
Yeah.
And that leads me to, which I've commented on, like the trailer reviewers, these boneheads.
Yeah.
These are people that are going to review an entire movie out of context, okay? And
Yeah.
they're going to talk about a whole movie based on a 60-second to 90-second trailer and tell us whether we should see it or not. And I always equate that with, that's like walking into the doorway of a restaurant, taking 3 sniffs and going, yep, this place sucks. That's what a trailer review is.
Yeah.
If that was the case, Jaws should have bombed because that's a shitty trailer. And so is Star Wars. The original Star Wars trailer, I challenge anybody, go back online original trailers. Holy shit, it's amazing those movies made $10.
Well, that's how they did it back then because there was no internet.
Right. You saw the trailer that they gave you, and nobody cared if you liked it or not. Nobody cared if you sat there with a headset on wet uncontrollably because you saw the Millennium Falcon again. Nobody cared. This is what you're seeing, so there you go. And what do you know? Turned out they were both really good movies. How about that?
Mm-hmm.
And then you can turn around. Look, I remember still, man, seeing the preview for Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah.
I was a movie theater manager at the time, and I remember, I don't know, maybe I had a couple in me when I was watching whatever movie after work it was with that trailer on the front. I remember laughing my ass off, especially when Bernie's hitting those buoys when they're dragging him with the boat.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, hey, I'm going to go see that. That's funny. And then I watched it, and I went, oh. It was like, well, the trailer was the best thing about this movie.
Yeah, I've talked to Kathy Mary Stewart about Weekend at Bernie's before, and I tell her how much I love that scene where her and Andrew McCarthy are making out on the beach, and then Bernie's body washes up next to them.
Yeah,
love that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There are moments. They took all the funniest moments out of that movie and made a trailer out of it.
Yeah.
The problem is when you went to see it, you got stuck in a 90-minute movie that about 3 minutes of it was funny.
Yeah, how do you feel about recut trailers that, just are for a joke?
Well, I mean, again, some of them are funny as hell. I love the one where they recut The Shining into, that was great.
I love that one.
And then the Must Love Jaws, that was terrific.
Yeah, I remember that.
I mean, that's funny. Look, I wish I had such talent to do such things. I love that stuff. I mean, that's funny, But when you're talking about, judging an entire movie based on a trailer, just remember all those chuckleheads that got boners over the Phantom Menace trailer, right?
Yeah.
And then found out what it was really like when they sat down in that theater. Yeah. Oh, my God. It's going to be awesome. We waited 20 years for this. And then they walk out. Fuck, we waited 20 years for this?
Yeah. Oh, my God. That was a heartbreaker.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. How can you give credence to a trailer reviewer? And I took umbrage with one. I never take the bait on these. So people listening can go, oh, I'm just going to write something shitty about it. I don't fucking care. I don't have comments on my podcast, even when iTunes comes up and stuff.
Yeah.
Because they aren't comments are not reviews. They're one-sided things for mostly people to say shitty, snarky things. They're really a forum for people to be dicks. That's it. So, on the trailer review of Death House, we made a trailer that was made specifically for the convention crowd to show the convention people that we honored what Gunnar wanted, and this is going to be a rough-and-tumble, gritty, dirty movie. Okay? And that's what we made. And when we let that drop publicly, this one guy came on and he reviewed the trailer and he's like, well, let's look at a couple things here. Number one, it looks like they shot this on the lowest end, cheapest camera that they could find. Well, number one, jackass, we shot it on the Alexa Pro, one of the highest cameras in the industry. Okay, so You're wrong there. Number one, you're factually wrong there. Number two, well, it's really dark, and that's usually a sign of a low-budget film when they don't have the money for proper light. I would like to introduce you to the 3 Griffin electric trucks that we used on this film, and for the simple fact that by seeing the trailer, what you really don't understand is that the entire thing takes place underground when the lights go out.
Yeah.
And it just went on. So I went on there and I just said, look, you cannot like the trailer. I'm not here for that. But as the director and writer of this motion picture, here's where I'm going to tell you you're wrong. And I listed the 3 or 4 areas where factually you are incorrect. And somebody, of course, had to rush to this guy's defense on the comments and said, well, he's allowed to express his opinion. Yes, I know, First Amendment, freedom of speech, I know all that. So my response was, and so does the filmmaker. The filmmaker has the right to express his opinion, too.
Yes.
So my answer is, get your shit together, jackass. That's my answer. Before you go and comment on something publicly, maybe you should do your homework on it.
Yeah, you know, the internet has really like made people lazy and make them think that they don't have to pay their dues if they want to do something like reviewing movies and stuff.
Well, there was a guy, for example, way back when the Fields came out, and that's when I really first started, learning about this kind of stuff and really realizing just how negative people can be. Like, you always knew that, but like
Mm-hmm.
when you're faced with it. And they wrote this review on the Fields, which I have to admit, I had a miserable experience making the Fields. I don't have really good memories of it. I could write a whole book on the misery that was the Fields. But this guy writes, Harrison Smith, and I'm paraphrasing, it's not a quote, and it's on my Cynema blog, and I'll be referencing it in a podcast. You can see exactly what he wrote.
Mm-hmm.
I screenshotted his review. But he wrote something along the line of that I think it's funny for Cloris Leachman to use the N-word, and that's my sense of humor. Well, number one, asshole, I'm not, and then he said, a racist thing, that I was basically racist. And it's like, number one, asshole, I'm not racist. Number two, if you listen to how this scene is used, she is not using the word for comedy effect, for comedic effect. She is teaching her grandson that it's not a good word, because at first she uses the word because back in the day, that's how some of these old people talk.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's right. What I'm saying is it was their vernacular.
Yeah.
And little boy corrects her, and he says, well, Mom says that's not a nice word. And then he uses the word, and Cloris stops him and says, don't use that word. Say this. And even the word that she uses is not much better, but it's a moment where an old lady is confronted with her own racism by her grandfather.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's what the scene was. The person who wrote that review doesn't understand film at all.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't understand it at all. And they're just dropping this, like, what are you, some social justice warrior? You want to make Harrison Smith out to be just a bad guy? He's a racist? No, man. Watch the movie. And in fact, Cloris Leachman herself, an Oscar, Tony, and Emmy Award winner, said, because the directors were nervous about that scene, they wanted to cut that scene. And she said, if you cut that scene, I will petition to remove my name from this film, and I will do no public support for this movie. It's an important scene.
Yeah, those social justice warriors, they drive me crazy, those people. I see them on Twitter every day.
Well, and that's what they were trying to do. That's what they were trying to do here, to stir up something that just simply was not there. No, I was not trying to be racist. No, I was not trying to be funny. It's actually a very touching scene where the woman realizes maybe it's this close to the end of her life that, I probably shouldn't have been using that word.
Yeah.
And that's what the scene was. It's a great scene. And it's a great scene played between grandmother and grandson. And most of all, that really happened. That was the actual dialogue. That was a conversation between me and my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy didn't get it, and then, I looked a little deeper, and it's like, oh, what are you, 24, 25, you're in college, right? You get some freelance gig to write for a horror magazine, so you're going to make your mark? Is that what you're trying to do? How about you get your stuff right? Instead of just trying to win points, how about you try to get your stuff right and get your facts correct? Never reached out to me. Never reached out for a comment on that, but had no problem branding me a racist in the public press.
Yeah, they're idiots. Yeah.
And all you had to do was email. My email, you could have reached me through the film's email. Hey, we want to get Smith's comment on this before this goes to press. Nope. Just published it. Just dropped it. How about I turn around and, lob a lawsuit against you for defamation? How about that?
Yeah, that's what I would have done.
Well, and most people know it costs money to do that. And defamation is hard to prove. How will it have hurt my career? That's the hardest thing to convince a jury of on that, and that's why people do this shit. Yeah. I'd love to see a reality show where people track down these trolls and say, okay, you said this about me, now say it to my face, and watch them be like, I don't really have a problem. Right?
Right.
So my podcast is about this kind of cynicism, where why do you have to hate everything, Tommy? Why can't we look at things and go, okay, look, I did a podcast just recently, it'll be coming up, on Godzilla, King of the Monsters. And to prove that I'm not just some, blind Godzilla fanboy, infrastructure problems. It's got some issues. But the real issue is it's not a cynical movie. I didn't review the movie. I look at it as, is Godzilla cynical? Is it that it's a cash grab that some reviewers have called it, a mediocre remake cash grab? No. It was made by people who truly love Godzilla. Mm-hmm. And yes, it's got problems. There's no doubt about that it has problems. But that doesn't make it a bad movie. Star Wars has problems. Yeah. Jaws has problems. I mean, look, we all love Jaws, but you're not going to get anybody convinced that that shark is the most convincing great white shark ever put on screen.
No.
And Jaws is my favorite motion picture of all time because I recognize that it is art, and it was made in the context of its time with the best technology that was available to its time. Why does everything suddenly have to be dated? That's a cynical aspect. Well, then we can't really watch anything anymore, can we, Tom? I mean, that's dated. You know, and then we turn around and we embrace Stranger Things, which is all dated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The whole premise of Stranger Things is built upon nostalgia and dated things. That's what we love about it. But then why can't we look at it in our own films that we view? Why is everything dated? Is The Godfather dated?
No.
Do we have to update The Godfather now? Do we have to shoot it in the present day? And then in 20 years, do we have to update it again? My God.
Yeah, I mean, the internet is just full of people who are just negative, and they have no purpose in life, so they're just lashing out. That's all, you know.
Yeah, it's angry people.
Yeah.
You know? And they're angry, and some of them just want to start stuff. They want to do it just to start something. They want the filmmaker to respond. You know, like Adam Wingard made a big mistake on Twitter, and that is he started answering back to these people that were bashing him on Death Note. And the guy should have just been like, hey, man, you didn't like it? Don't know what to tell you. Moving on. But they kept on, and then he started antagonizing back. Oh, maybe all the Death Note haters will really love what I'm going to do with Godzilla versus Kong. It's like, dude, you should shut up. Just shut up right now and don't feed these people, because what somebody does is they go, oh, look, I got Adam Wingard to respond to my tweet. Look, there it is. He responded to me.
Yeah.
That's what they do. And then Wingard ends up canceling his Twitter account, and then these trolls cry victory. You know, oh, we drove him off the internet. We drove him off Twitter.
Yeah.
Now, they'll all kiss his ass if Godzilla vs. Kong turns out to be fantastic. Well, then they'll all kiss his ass. You know? These are the same people. They'll say, no matter how much they say, I hate this, I hate this. They'll say it. They'll say it.
That movie I was trying to figure out the name of that revived Barbara's career was You're Next.
Oh, yeah, You're Next. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was. I also see on Twitter that you're also doing film coaching.
Yeah. Yes, I am. I've had a lot of people over the last couple of years come to me and say, listen, I got this film I want to put in festivals. Would you look at it? And most of the time I don't do that because just, you know, copyright and all that.
Yeah.
But there was this one guy that's like, look, I used Courtney Palm as the voice in this. And I'm like, okay, well, Courtney and I are friends, and yeah, I'll do it for Courtney. You know, that kind of thing. And I ended up helping him with the notes so much, he ended up winning. He said, your notes were fantastic. He said, you really should be, you know, charging for this advice. And I wanted to say, okay, buddy, $500. How about for you, you know? I get a lot of people that are like, oh, I'm trying to write a screenplay, and I have this, and I have this idea. And there are some that I want to say, you probably have a really great script. I'm telling you right now in the market, that's not selling. You're wasting your time. You know, these fan films, for example, like on Friday the 13th, there were people out there spending $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 on these fan Friday the 13th movies. They're not going to help.
Yeah.
You're throwing away money. First of all, Sean Cunningham can't stand any of that.
Yeah.
You know, so you're not helping yourself at all. You're not ingratiating yourself, anybody affiliated with Friday the 13th. And you're taking $20,000 and throwing it down the toilet on basically your own vanity project. And that's fine if that's what you want to do. But, you know, so there are things like that where, you know, people have come to me for advice. They ask me to look at things, and I give them, you know, the best I can. Look, I don't know everything. I'm just, you know, trying to help them along and say, well, you may want to do this. Like somebody came to me where should I take this film and start on the festival circuit? And I took him through the ropes, and he's like, oh, my God, this is great. And I actually got into this one. I would have never known this if I hadn't talked to you.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm out there, and I'm doing it, too. I'm out there, and I'm bumping into walls, I'm nicking my shins, and I'll pass that on to anybody else. But I figured, if it's worth something to somebody, well, then you charge for it. You don't give it away. And I'm not charging out anything outlandish. It's just per session, and see what that's worth to somebody. And so I figured I'd try it. I've gotten quite a few so far, which is great. I don't know if it's something I want to keep on doing, but I do like the podcasting thing because sometimes it's therapy.
Yeah, I know. I thank God for the podcast world, because if it wasn't for this, I wouldn't have learned so much, and so much about the industry too. I mean, the podcast has just made so many leaps and bounds. It's just profound,
Yeah.
So what can you tell me about your new movie, The Special?
Well, it's getting great advanced reviews. We're throwing it out there also on the festival circuit. We are being courted right now by several buyers, and we're really excited about that. And what I like about it is it's probably my most intimate movie that I've been able to direct in a while, that I was able to really put my stamp on. Camp Dread, I think, is really the last one. The others, although I'm proud of Death House and all that, they had to meet certain benchmarks of certain requirements. So, you didn't have a lot of time to put your own personal stamp on things. But with The Special, I had a good 3-4 months of prep, and I was able to get things really down to make something, to borrow the term, special.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't recognize any of the cast names. Are they mostly local actors in Pennsylvania?
Say again, please?
Oh, in The Special, I didn't recognize any of the cast names. Are they mostly local actors in Pennsylvania?
Oh, yeah. We used David Sheridan and Sarah French from Los Angeles.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So we brought David Sheridan in, who's known from the Scary Movies series, and then we brought in Sarah French, who's making her way up through the horror world. And I've been wanting to work with Sarah, so I thought, let's give her a leading platform on this. Let's see what she does with it. And the reviews have come back extremely positive and glowing on her. She did a great job as the suffering wife in this movie. She really did.
Oh, that's great. I was curious, out there in Pennsylvania, you ever go check out the locations of the George Romero movies?
I've been on the other side. That's on the other side of the state for me.
Mm-hmm.
They're out by Pittsburgh, and yes, I've gone to the cemetery. In fact, I was involved about 10 years ago now. I was involved in trying to help raise some money to keep that cemetery preserved.
Mm-hmm.
From Night of the Living Dead. So, yes, I've been there. Yep, and I've been to Tom Savini's house and all of that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, because I know they have the Living Dead weekend over at the mall where Dawn of the Dead was shot, and then they do the is it the cemetery or is it the house of where Night of the Living Dead was shot for the other one, for the other Living Dead weekend? Yeah. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool that they do that every year.
It is.
Yeah, it's long overdue too, because they've only been doing it for a couple of years, but it's great. It's great that they do that.
It is, and you're right. There's a lot of stuff that regards George Romero that's long overdue. I often felt that George was one of those filmmakers that gave far more to the industry than what he got back.
Yes, I agree too. I agree, because his movies had such camaraderie. He always worked with the same people over and over again, and he did it out of the Hollywood system. He did it in his hometown, and he just contributed so much, and I just think he gets short shrift. Although, movies like Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead, I mean, they are very much revered by the horror community and the horror industry.
Yeah, but then, you get this whole generation that thinks The Walking Dead is the be-all, the end-all, and it's like without George Romero, you wouldn't have anything.
Yeah.
And I never felt that George really got the proper respect paid to him for that. And in fact, I don't know what you can say about this legally, but financially there should have been something for him as well too, I think.
Oh yeah, I've talked to like John Russo and stuff. He's still kind of bitter about the fact that Night of the Living Dead fell in the public domain.
Yeah, and what a mess that was. I mean, that's why they ended up doing that remake to get a hold of rights again, to reclaim those rights and get it out of there. And it's a shame because, I mean, look what's happening with Friday the 13th right now, with all of that. I mean, that's what can ruin the whole plate, So you're right. John Russo's correct. I mean, he has every right to be bitter, and I'm sure George was as well. And I think I remember that one interview with George when they asked him about the Walking Dead, and I think he said something like, well, it would have been nice to have been asked.
Yeah. Yeah, that's perfect.
He was still a gentleman about it, but really he had some entitlement to some sour grapes, I think. He created that whole subgenre of the cannibalistic, zombie and the whole human drama interwoven with it on an epic scale. And The Walking Dead just came in and swept in and did all their thing. And I'm not knocking The Walking Dead as well made and all that stuff. I mean, it has nothing to do with that. It's just simply, you get people now that, I love Walking Dead, I love zombie films. Really, what'd you think of George Romero? Who? Well, then you don't love zombie films. Then you don't.
Yeah, and also too, when I talked to his second wife Christine, she told me too. Yeah, the last 15 years of their marriage, he was just very bitter and going through a lot with the movie industry too. It's really sad,
Yeah, and it is. It's a shame because he really, again, like you said, he was very much like John Carpenter. They used the same people over and over again. And that was great. And growing up, reading Fangoria. And all those types of magazines, I studied that. Look, I didn't buy Fangoria just for the pictures. I bought it because that was where you were going to get your information on your favorite horror filmmakers. And, when I used to read their style, that, they're the same DPs, the same sound guys, you know what I mean, the same actors. It's like, well, that's good. I always remember John Carpenter saying in an interview, my God, I can't even tell you when he said this, but I read it in Fangoria where it's like, you find good people and you hang on to them for life. And that's what I've done. I reuse a lot of my actors, a lot of my crew. I try to bring them back every time. I try to, and go look at my IMDb and look at the filmographies and the breakdowns, and you'll see many of the similar names. I mean, Davey, who's the star of the special, has been with me since Camp Dress.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Yeah, but Romero and Carpenter were my two guys growing up because every time I saw a movie of theirs I hadn't seen, I recognized people from the previous movies I had seen and stuff, and I knew that the movie was going to be great because he had great cast, he had great zombie and makeup from Tom Savini and everything and stuff. They're great. They're just so great.
That's what I'm saying, and that's kind of disappearing from the landscape now. I mean, we don't really see that all that much anymore.
It's all corporate.
Spielberg used to work with a lot of his same people, but look, things get bigger and you move on, and the band breaks up. You can't be the Beatles forever, but
bridges burn.
Most people would agree that, like, even John Carpenter's work, his best work, was when he used pretty much all the same people over and over again. And that could be Halloween, The Fog, Escape from New York, The Thing, and those are his four best, I think.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with you. Yes.
I mean, I'm not saying he's never made another good film since. I'm just saying that those four are all very consistent. They're original. They're fresh. They're clever. They're well done. There was always a sense of adventure with them, no matter how low budget they were. And John is the first one to admit that that the studio system was not kind to him. It turned him off. He ended up going back to independent filmmaking because he hated the studio system.
Yeah, all those horror guys hated the studio system. Toby Hooper, George, Wes Craven, they all hated the major studio system.
Did. Oh, yeah, because they got to create on their own.
Yeah.
Then you've got a studio going, well, now you got to do this, and you got to have this in here, and you got to do that. And, we're going to take a pass at this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to bring this in, and we want you to go back and reshoot that. And you're kind of like, what? Like, no.
So, Cynema, it's available where?
Well, right now it's on my YouTube channel. I have it being readied for iTunes. It's been submitted and just waiting any day now for the approval from iTunes. And then it'll be on Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify. It'll be everywhere.
And what's your channel called?
It's called Cynema. Cynema 85.
Cynema 85.
Yep. You can find it on YouTube. And I have the first 3 episodes up. The rest I'm holding now till it's up on iTunes, where I can drop them once a week. And then I'm getting ready. I'm going to be recording with Tucky Williams coming up on Tuesday.
Awesome. I will check those out. And I thank you, Harrison, for coming back on. I hope the podcast and the film coaching and the new movie are super successful for you.
Thank you. I do too. I think people are going to really like the special. I'm pretty excited. I'm going up to Fantasia Fest Wednesday, up to Canada for that, to meet with some people that were really excited about it and talk future projects as well.
Awesome. Well, you have yourself a great rest of your day and enjoy the rest of your summer.
All right. Well, thank you, Tommy. Thanks for having me on again.
My pleasure. All right.
Take care now. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Harrison Smith. Ain't he a cool dude? Harrison is like the king of pontification. I just love his honesty and his rants about not just the horror movies, but just things in general and how fucked up the internet is. Love that guy. If you like this video, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Add me as a friend on Facebook. Join my Tommy Kovac comedian page on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes!